K6ers, welcome to the latest news roundup of 2023 in this December. As you can see, we are reporting from a special location this holiday season while we bring you all the newest updates in the K6 universe. Or should I say K6verse? And before we get into the OSS release news, we have a big update or a big move, should I say. This is because our K6 documentation is packing its bags and relocating to the Grafana.com documentation. Before, you could access the K6 documentation at k6.io/docs. But now you will find the documentation at grafana.com/docs/K6. The old location will still be there, but we may clean up space soon. So update your door keys for this new place where our K6 documentation will reside. We don't want you knocking at the old place if no one will come up anymore. But now that you have been given this relocation notification, let's get on with the news as we have just released K6 OSS version 0.48. So why don't we dive right into it? In this latest 0.48 release, we have some interesting updates. To start, we have a new awesome feature, a new K6 command. I have no idea how long ago since the last time we had a new command. This is huge and new. Yeah, I mean new, as we have the new command. Is that confusing? Well, this new command is just like the run and cloud commands that you type after invoking K6. Now, after you type K6, you can use the word new followed by the file name that you want to create. This command will create a new script that can be used as a template to start working on your automation right away. It will make you so efficient. But this new command even allows you to invoke it without any file name, which will create script.js, making things even more efficient for everyone eager to just start running new automations. And another great addition is a new experimental module. This is the FS module, which stands for File System. This you can invoke with K6/experimental/fs. With it, you will optimize the file interactions with your scripts, which fixes a common problem that we used to have with the open command in a script which would open the file instead of each virtual user running, wasting lots of memory. Now, with this new module, your files will be loaded as little as possible and shared among virtual users, instead of opening each VU in memory the file for themselves. This is so much optimization, right? And on other experimental modules, the Redis experimental module received lots of love. To start, the client constructor now supports connection URLs to configure connections to the Redis servers or clusters. Also, the options object was revamped to align with familiar Node.js and Dino patterns. And lastly, the experimental Redis module now supports MTLS, enhancing connection security. That's so much, right? Tons of love for the Redis experimental module, right? And last but not least, this OSS release added tracing instrumentations with which K6 now has a new traces output option. This option can be set through the --traces-output argument after K6 run. At the moment, no traces come directly from K6, but this is a first step for what is up to come in the near future. For more details on this trace output and the rest of the news, breaking changes, improvements, and detailed info on this K6 OSS release, please take a look at the URL down here or in the YouTube video description. But that was not all with this OSS release. As you know, the browser is part of OSS, but it is so special that it has its own section. So for that, let's check the worldwide browser news.
Hola Leandro and hello K6ers! It's a quick segment for the K6 browser, but I'm still gonna be delivering some jam-packed features. With this release of K6 version 0.48, K6 browser now supports CPU and network throttling. With this new and amazing feature, you can now set a limit to your network bandwidth to see how users that are on slower network connections experience your website. Let's do a quick demo. So this is an example script that I got from the Grafana K6 documentation. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to import the network profiles from K6 experimental browser. So let me do that quickly. Now, before you navigate to the page that you want to check, I'm going to call in page.throttlenetwork. And then I'm going to pass in the network profile itself. And let's say that I want to check what my user experience is like if my users are on a slow 3G connection. So to do that, I just need to pass in the slow 3G as a string. And let's go ahead and save and run that test. So as you can see already, the execution is a bit slow, and once the test is finished, you can see that the different web vital metrics such as the first contentful paint as well as the largest contentful paint are also a bit higher because you are on a slower network connection. Now, on the other hand, if you also want to see what your user experience is like if they're on a slower devices or slower machines, then there's also a new method called page.throttleCPU. So this will actually slow down your machine's performance by a specific number. So we can call page.throttleCPU like that, and then pass in the slowdown rate. So for this particular example, I want my machine to have a slowness of, let's say, 50 times. So if I save this test and run it again, so again, you can see the execution is slow, typing is a bit slow, and once the test is finished, my web vital metrics are still a bit higher. And there you have it, folks. With this new and amazing feature, you have more control over how you can simulate your user's experience in a variety of conditions. Of course, there were bug fixes and internal improvements made as well as part of this release, but I'm not gonna spoil them for you, so make sure you check out the latest release note for all the changes. And that is all from me. Back to you, Leandro.
Wow. Dance, puppet browsers, dance, but a bit slower or a bit thinner in terms of bandwidth, right? Those are awesome features for when you want to check how different devices and user experience might perform, right? I can't wait to see what else we will have in the browser future. But what do I can see is some movement up in the sky with the Grafana Cloud. So why don't we jump up right into our weather report? Hello. Well, man, is it cold or is it only me? Well, it's been a bit chilly here in the cloud and in this new special location that on one hand, that's why Nicole isn't here. And that's why we only have 3 updates for this season on the weather of our Grafana Cloud K6. First, we added user-defined limits and quotas, and this is especially now a required parameter because before you could have some tests that would go haywire and you don't want your bill to go haywire as well. So now, every time you have to define these parameters in your executions, you have quotas and limits. Then, we also added some improvements with distributed tracing. Now we have added a trace tree view, a trace comparison view, and a trace support query editor and explorer. And last, we added browser support in the performance insights so that you can add and analyze your web vitals when you are running your browser tests. Isn't that awesome? Well, but it's getting a little bit chilly here, and I'm kind of in a hurry to start the holidays and to enjoy some time. So, with that, calling out this cloud and chilly report. See ya! Happy holidays! So beautiful it is our cloud forming an impressive landscape of Grafana interconnected K6 forecasts, right? But if we speak of impressive landscapes, I think the extension traffic stays impressive. So why don't we look up in the air to learn what is up with the extension traffic landscape?
Hola, Leandro! The K6 newscopter is running on fumes, so I'd better go through the updates pretty fast. The XK6 dashboard is still under active construction as we work to ultimately make it part of the K6 core functionality. XK6 SQL 030 was released to now officially use the Microsoft client for MS SQL Server. The AMQP and Docker extensions have been archived. Our friend Mark Tomlinson may be taking on AMQP going forward, but we'll have to wait and see for sure. The community's released a lot of updates and fixes, in fact too many to mention while I'm flying on fumes. Thanks to all the maintainers out there, your diligence for keeping extensions up to date are appreciated. This cycle, we had no less than 7 new extensions. The community added support for new protocols like Diameter for authentication and authorization, NoSTR for decentralized social media relays, web transport for bidirectional streams, and OCSP for online certificate statuses. We've also seen utility extensions like XK6 Zap, XK6 Azure Service Bus, as well as the experimental extension from Ivan Skiba, Tigor. For Kubernetes users out there, the K6 operator released version 0012. This release primarily improves on the private load zones feature that was introduced in version 11, removes some DNS restrictions, and improves on the Helm chart deployment options. Uh-oh, that sounds like all the time that I've got, and thank you to all the contributors adding to the operator. I'd better get this bird back on the ground pronto. Back to you, Leandro.
As usual, so much flow with the extensions, right? But do you know what other neighborhood keeps having lots of traffic and activity? Yeah, I am talking about Champion Bird. So, let's check what is up with the K6 champions. Today, we start our champions news a bit differently. Other than this new scenery, I think that the champions news are different this time because the year is coming to an end. And it is different from our previous roundups because this time we added only one champion to the roster. So let's welcome and congratulate to Paul Maxwell Walters, who was just imbued with the champion title by His Majesty Bird I. But now, buckle up for the non-stop flow of activities for the rest of our champions as they were really busy. First, Carlos Gauto visited us in Español at Café con Grafana, where he shared his experience at the Workshop on Performance and Reliability event and spoke about the evolution of performance in Latin America. Also, Yusuf Tayman spoke at Test Bash Autumn about fault injection with XK6 Disruptor. But not only that, he also came to the Grafana Observability Con 2023, together with many other Grafana champions. As well, Gregor Spajnik created a couple of videos. On one, he talked about how K6 differs from JMeter, and on the other was a short video explaining Grafana Loki to streamline your log management process. Also, Rafael Xarpa wrote an article on how you can run your K6 tests on GitHub. Then, Donald Lee also wrote an article on how to quickly generate a K6 test using the browser recorder and then running it on Grafana Cloud K6. Also, Manish Correa delivered a hands-on workshop about K6 at the 8th edition of the Global Testing Retreat. on it, he showed how to use ChatGPT to generate more K6 scripts. As well, Sarah Sipkin shared an insightful article on how to take your K6 test from development to operations and showed us how to reuse the performance tests with different option files. Last but not least, John Hill shared how to combine front-end and back-end performance with K6 at the Grafana office hours. But not only that, he also spoke at Grafana and Friends in-person meetup about automated performance modeling with OpenMCT, Grafana Cloud, and K6. All this was a blast, isn't it? I can't wait to see what our champions will bring this 2024. And of course, we will report it here for sure. But for now, let's keep moving. Well, these champions just won't stop, right? But for now, I think that they might just take a break as the holiday season is just around the corner. And speaking of the holiday season, we at the K6 team and the KSIX News crew wish you happy holidays and happy new year. May all of your performance, observability, and happiness wishes come true. And don't forget, we will see you soon this 2024. Until then, check the links in the video description if you want to find out more about all the topics mentioned during this episode. And leave comments if you want any questions or any other thing that you would like us to cover down here in the comments. But for now, that will be it for all of us here at KSIX News. I am Leandro Melendez. You stay classy, K6.